Hello and welcome once again to Among the Ferns. We are here at Fernhill Garden Centre to talk, well, we'll find out exactly what we are talking about. Let me introduce you to our host. This is Eoin Reid. Good day, Owen.
Good day, Paul.
I'm turning into an Australian there for a few moments.
Tasmanian ferns.
Tasmania. Well, that's right, because we are among the ferns, and these ferns being from Tasmania.
Tasmania, yeah.
So yeah, they're rubbing off on me with the accent.
Get an old Aussie hat next.
Come here, what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about hydrangeas. Hydrangeas, which are probably just starting to burst into colour all over the country at the moment. Amazing plant, and we're going to go through all the various varieties and all the little tips and tricks for hydrangeas.
Brilliant. Well, let's get on with it. Well, we were among the ferns, but now we are among the hydrangeas. Owen, what a beautiful display.
They're just a magnificent plant, and the kind of plant that just rewards you so much. Lots of different colours, lots of different shapes, lots of different types of flowers. They can grow in lots of different positions in your garden. So they're an amazing plant.
I know it's a silly question, but what exactly are hydrangeas?
They're a shrub, they're a hardy shrub. This particular variety here is Hydrangea maculata. Maculatas are what's in front of us here at the moment. In the maculatas, you can get what they call pom-pom heads, which are like these very big, large flower, kind of like a globulous head. And you can get what they call lace cap flowers as well, which are these ones here, which are kind of more flatter. But there's an enormous range of flowers available and colours and shapes in the hydrangeas, both from texture of the foliage. These are nice and green, but you can also get some lovely dark red foliage leaves as well. So there's a huge variety, and they've become very popular in Ireland over the last number of years. They've always been popular, but they're becoming even more popular because of the amount of varieties that are available. They kind of would be regarded as a real old plant in most people's gardens. You see them back in the day going wild in lots of gardens, and they get quite large. They can go up to kind of 6 to 10 foot.
Really?
Oh, they can, yeah, when they get old. So you need to be mindful of that and just prune them a little bit. What they like is they like a really good rich ground. Very important, because they are very thirsty plants. Because the name hydrangea is Latin for water. Hydro waters they are, so they're thirsty devils. And they also like a little bit of dappled shade. But having said that, I've seen them grow in full sun as well. So they're very adaptable in most parts of your garden.
No, quite easy to grow.
Very easy growth. It's easy to take slips from, easy to propagate. Very robust, flower for a very long period of time. And these guys are going to come into flower now. They're just barely coming into flower now, kind of beginning of June. And they'll continue flowering right throughout the entire summer.
Beautiful.
So they last a long time. But not more than that. When they finish flowering, don't cut the flowers off, because the flowers go dry. And they make a lovely cutting. The dry flowers of hydrangeas can be stunning in your garden in the autumn. So it's one that, they're a plant that just keep giving, so they are.
Beautiful. Now, for the benefit of the viewers and the listeners to our podcast today, you and I, obviously, we do a little feature on my programme on Shannonside Northern Sound. We talk, obviously, gardening questions and things. And we were talking about hydrangeas on our latest programme, and something you told me which was extremely interesting about the colour. Tell us about the type of soil and the colour and how it's affected.
We're standing here right beside the blue hydrangea. Blue hydrangeas traditionally grow in areas where the soil is acid. In other words, in Ireland, you'll be talking about areas in around by Kerry, Galway, Cork, up in Donegal, Antrim. All the hydrangeas along the coast, where the ground underneath is basically granite. You will get acid type of soil, and these hydrangeas will stay blue. Here in the Midlands, it's the opposite. That exact same plant in our soil around here, which is on a lime-based ground, will go pink. So traditionally in the Midlands here, you'll always see our hydrangeas are pink. Now you can make them go blue, but you have to add additives to them.
Of course, yes.
So all the minor nutrients that are available in acid soil are not available in lime soil, and that's why they go pink. So it's a little bit of a trick now. So if you want blue hydrangeas, you need to be in the Midlands. You need to be working on them, or else plant them in containers. And then they'll stay blue by the
like
grace.
Frankenstein horticulture.
It is a little bit.
It is a bit, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So come here, with this being blue, if I took this to the west of Ireland, planted it, how long would it take to go pink?
In the west of Ireland, it'll stay blue.
Oh,
it's here in the Midlands that it'll go pink. So this is
right.
this is the Midlands colour.
Okay, so the Midlands being pink here now.
Yeah.
How long would this take to go blue in the west of Ireland?
Oh, probably one season, a few weeks. Yeah, a few weeks. Once that's in the ground and it's getting the right nutrients, the flowers will automatically start to change. There's actually varieties here as well that are multicoloured. They've got so good on these varieties that they change in throughout the seasons, and they start off white, then they go pink, then they go blue, then they go mauve. So there's just a world of varieties available of hydrangeas, and they're well worth shining a light on them so people understand exactly how to work.
Yeah.
When it comes to the various products to help you keep them blue and pink,
here we go.
We have a few of them here. Sorry for stepping out of camera there for a moment. The best one of all is probably this one here. This is what they call hydrangea feed, and basically that will make your hydrangeas go blue in a pink area to dwell, and an ericaceous feed will do the same. So either of them will do the job. But a general fertilizer for hydrangeas in general, in around all gardens, Epsom salts. They love Epsom salts.
And what are Epsom salts?
Epsom salts helps them to flower, and sulphate of iron helps them to stay nice and green, and sulphate of potash will help them. So all these are little minor nutrients that really hydrangeas love, to try and trick them into flowering better. Some people sometimes will say to me, "Why hydrangeas aren't flowering correctly?" You put a bit of Epsom salts on and a little bit of potash on them, you're going to help them produce better flowers.
Yeah. I was just thinking that gardening is rather like baking, isn't it?
There's lots of ingredients.
A lot of science.
There's a lot of science, yeah. When you actually go into horticulture college and that, there's a lot of soil science involved in it, and it can be quite tricky, but it is very important to understand the chemistry of soil, how important it is to the health of your garden. And your hydrangeas are a typical example. The fact that they go blue in acid and then pink in lime tells you that the chemistry has a huge effect on plants.
Yeah, a bit like the litmus test, when the litmus paper goes blue.
Flowers should
there we are.
That's exactly it.
It's marvellous.
Bit of science.
Yeah, a bit of science on the programme today. I
horticulture.
hope you're paying attention. There'll be notes at the end of this. Well, come here to me. So we've talked about the blue and the pink. How about the other sort of various colours, the more lighter colour, the whites and the yellows and all those?
The white and the yellows, they will grow on any soil. They're quite happy. There's a couple of little tricks when it comes to your hydrangeas as well, when from a pruning point of view. When the hydrangeas, particularly immaculatus, a lot of people ask, when's the best time to prune them? Best time to prune them is actually in the spring, after the new growth. You leave the old flower heads on over winter. The reason you do that is because the old flower heads, they're quite big and bulky. They will protect the new growth that comes on in the spring, because these will drop their leaves. They get very, very soft growth coming on from the early March into early April, and you can get frost that time of the year. So the big flowers here tend to protect the new growth from being damaged. And then just as the new growth starts to come through, then you cut off the old flower heads, and that way then the new flowers, you'll see them coming out. If you cut your hydrangeas back too hard, because a flower on 2-year-old wood, you will lose your flowers on immaculatus. You will not get too much flowers. So in other words, if a hydrangea's got out of shape and it's got too big on you, and you have to cut it back, take it for granted you're going to lose the flowers for the following season, because the new growth will come through, and it won't flower in new growth, flower in 2-year-old growth. So that's why when you're pruning hydrangeas, you prune them gently. Take off the old flower heads every spring, and allow the new flower heads, which you'll see them coming through, to develop, and you'll have fantastic flowers every year. Now the paniculatas, which we'll be talking about very shortly, you treat them completely different. So you do. So we'll talk about the paniculatas.
Okay, we'll talk about the difference between paniculatas and your regular hydrangea then in just a few moments. But come here, these would be great in either pots or borders, wouldn't they?
Pots and borders, yeah. If you're going to put them into a pot, put them in a big pot, because the fact that they like water, it's very important that you put them in a decent large container, so that you will have enough moisture content in there for them to survive and thrive. They'll tell you very quickly. You'll see a hydrangea wilt if it's not getting enough water, and if it goes into stress like that, it will affect the flowering season So it is very important to put them in as large a pot as you possibly can, and keep them well fed with the various fertilizers that we've just pointed out to you. And that's really it. They get very little disease issues. It's really water and food is the big issue with garden hydrangeas. But the main reason we want to talk about them today is because there's such an abundance of colours and shapes and sizes of them.
They're beautiful.
That they just
really are.
fit anywhere in your garden.
Yeah.
Now
for the benefit of the people who are obviously listening rather than watching this, just talk us among the display here, the colours that we have. We've obviously mentioned the pinks and the blues.
Well, we started off with the kind of rosé colour up there, which is a rosé colour with a white eye in it. Then we're moving on to the white lace-capped whites. And then you've got a lovely, beautiful mauve colour here. Then you're into the reds, then you're into the blues, then you're into the purples, then you're into the pinks, then you're back into the whites again. And my favourite one is, you'll probably recognise this one if you're good. You're a bit of an old rocker, aren't you?
Well, I could be described as that. Deep purple.
Purple, yeah. So this is deep purple. This is actually an amazing hydrangea. Perfect hydrangea, and it's probably one of the best hydrangeas from a purple point of view. So you have your whites, you have your pinks, your mauves, but purple is just one of the super colours to this.
And of course, Smoke on the Water being one of Deep Purple's
That's right,
hits. Water, Hydrangea.
Well done.
There we are. There's method in this. I'm sure there will be. Connect them all up. Well, come here. Shall we have Hanky Panky?
We're into the Pinaculatas now.
The Hanky Panky Pinaculatas.
We're into the Pinaculatas.
The
So the Pinaculatas are a variety of hydrangeas, and we'll just bring you back to the back end of the store over here.
So the Pinaculatas, here we are. Have I got that right? Pinaculatas?
You have Pinaculatas right. Pinaculatas are very large hydrangea, completely different to the Maculatas in that they can get up to 6, 10, 12 foot high, and they generally are white flower. The most famous one is one called Annabelle. Annabelle is the original Pinaculata that everyone knows. It's big white globe of a flower.
Oh, yes.
Massive big flower. Mm-hmm. And these are all varieties of that have come on stream over the last number of years and have become exceptionally popular because they perform so well. Now, these are slightly different than the Maculatas in that when they do get a little bit out of shape or size, you can cut them back as hard as you want because these flower on 1 year old wood. So you can see the flowers on these here at the moment. That's this year's growth, and it's produced it, and now it's going to flower.
Lovely.
Whereas the Maculatas were different. They have to have, they're producing really on 2 year old wood. So these are your Pinaculatas, and there's just a big sturdy old plant that are just going to give you amazing colour right through. They're not as fussy as the hydrangea when it comes to water and all that kind of stuff, but they are excellent for in a very large shrub bed, kind of giving you that presence coming into June and July.
Yeah.
So they're just ones well worth having. Just to mention a couple of varieties. So this is one called Confetti. This is one called Silver Dollar.
So Confetti obviously is going to be what, multicoloured, is it?
Lots of different colours.
Yeah.
This is Vanilla Fraz. And we have got one here called Whims Red. So in other words, they'll drift into different colours. They generally start off white, and then they'll drift into reds and pinks as the season goes on. So they'll give you that extra bang for your buck with regard to colour.
I like the idea of this one, Silver Dollar. That looks like a beautiful white, sort of cream white. Yeah,
pure white.
Beautiful.
Some of the flowers, like Silver Dollar, are kind of conical shapes, so they are. And the likes of the Pinaculata then are just globular shape. So they come in different shapes and sizes, and they're very easy to grow. They're kind of plant that anybody can put in their garden and be confident that they're going to give you great performance.
Lovely. With you saying that these grow to 10, 12 feet, would these be any good for hedging or anything like that?
Hedging, they would, yeah. Now, next week we're going to actually be talking about shrubberies.
Yeah.
And, the Pinaculatas come in perfect in large shrubberies because they'll give you a nice mix of height and shape and colour. So they are. We'll be talking about shrubberies next week, and the Pinaculatas and the Manaculatas are fantastic in shrubberies as well. But they're just a very versatile range of plants that are well worth having in your garden. Easy care, easy mind, and repeat flowering and come back every year.
Perfect. Well, we were talking about hydrangeas as well on the programme on the 11 to 1 show on Shannonside Northern Sound. Lots of people were asking questions about hydrangeas. Yeah. So we'll take a few of those, shall we? For example, one of the questions that came through was, when's the best time to prune them?
Prune them, it's slightly different for both of them. The Pinaculatas, you can cut them back anytime, really. Generally after flowering. Or if you do forget to do it, you can cut them back hard in the spring. Whereas with the Manaculatas, which are the ones we spoke about earlier on, they need to be pruned in the spring, just as the new growth's coming through. You cut off the dead heads from the previous year. You can cut them back really hard if they get out of hand whenever you want, but to try and maintain the flowering, you're better off pruning them in the spring, just as the new growth's coming through. And you're literally just cutting off the old flowers from the previous year. That's all you do.
Perfect. And one here that says, how do we keep them flowering?
How to keep them flowering? Really good food is important. So keep them well fed.
The products that we talked about.
All the products talked about earlier on. Any good liquid feed will give them a boost. There's one called Boost, which is done by Westlanders. I find that gives them a fantastic spurt, and it gets the flowers really, really vibrant, and you get the lovely lush growth on them as well. Because the foliage on a hydrangea, you can see the ones we have here at the moment, the foliage is lovely and luscious and green. They'll tell you very quickly if they're hungry or not. If you start seeing kind of little yellow veins in them, you'll know they're hungry. So they are they need a good bit of food because they come with such fresh foliage very quickly. They need a lot of feeding. So any good general fertiliser is good. A good base fertiliser in the spring, the likes of your fast grow or your chicken manure or your bit of manure. And then throughout the growing season, some liquid feeds.
Yeah.
And that'll give you great.
How about the old fish blood?
Fish blood, I mean, iron were good. Yeah.
Perfect. And of course, recapping on how often to water them, because as you said before, their name suggests hydrangea, hydro, they love the water. How often?
They love water. You don't need to water them if they're in the ground. If they're established plants in the ground, they're fine. They won't need water. But if they're in pots, you need to be watering them every couple of days.
Right. There's one question that came through that I promised to pass on. Caroline says that she has a problem with her clematis. She says that she's got hares and rabbits nibbling her clematis. Is there anything that she can do to either stop them, or is there something better that the hares will avoid?
Hares will go for plants that they like. Every garden is different. Some gardens, the hares will go mad on a particular section of plants, and another complete garden they'll avoid those plants. So you need to figure out what plants will work in your garden and try and plant them. Lavenders, which we're right beside here at the moment, will keep hares away. So if you plant a few lavenders in underneath your clematis, that will prevent the hares from going at them. And there's lots of scent off products available as well in the store, which will get the rabbits out of the habit of going at the plant. And once you get them out of the habit for a few weeks, they tend to kind of stay away.
Yeah.
So they're quite good as well.
They just need retraining.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, we've been Among the Ferns with Eoin Reid here at Fernhill Garden Centre. Paul and Eoin, your flower pot men. Thank you very much, as always, for your expertise. Eoin, remember, you can catch up with more of our podcasts on our usual outlets, which are Apple, Spotify and YouTube. Wherever you get your podcasts, that's where we have our Among the Ferns podcasts. So until next time, what are we going to be talking about next time? You did mention it just a few moments ago.
We're going to talk about shrubberies.
Rubberies. Perfect. So from myself and Eoin, see you next time.